In this video, we're going to talk about Bitcoin's dominance. Not that dominance, Bitcoin's dominance. We know no alt can escape Bitcoin's gravity. What are we looking at right here and right now? This is Bitcoin overlaid with the top 60 alts. We can see TIA doing quite well. But what happens when Bitcoin's price comes down? That leads to weakness in all the alts. Now, what are we looking at here? We're looking at a 1 second chart. You can see it just playing out right here, right now. Now, what happens when Bitcoin goes down? We know that the alts will go down with it. What happens when Bitcoins go up? Well, if Bitcoin goes up, all the alts will be driven with it as well. We can use this kind of analysis to determine whether Bitcoin is gaining in strength or losing strength. It's a skill that's going to print you money. Let's run the numbers. What are we seeing right now? We're seeing that Bitcoin is going up. Believe it or not, Bitcoin is under there. That's the candlestick pattern underneath all of this. As Bitcoin comes up, guess what's happening to the alts? It's going up. And guess what happens to the alts when Bitcoin goes down? It comes down. This is on a 1 second period time chart. It's just unbelievable to see in real time. This raises the most important question of all questions. What is the true structural support and structural resistance for Bitcoin? If we know that, we can predict what's going to happen with the alts. You can see we had a bit of a flip up in Bitcoin and that pushed the alts up. But if we get a downward momentum inside Bitcoin, that's going to push the alts down. You can see that these are the top 60 alts. It works across any alt. A lot of people say, Ken, why didn't you talk about Bitcoin dominance, like without the apostrophe S, just this, Bitcoin dominance? Because I don't really hold any sway on the concept. Bitcoin is dominant already. No alt can escape Bitcoin's gravity. If Bitcoin is coming down, guess what the alts are doing? They're coming down. If Bitcoin is going up, what are the alts doing? They're going up. And that's as simple as it gets. I don't believe in overcomplicating anything. If you're liking the content, please subscribe and don't forget to smash that like button. We have one of the best communities on YouTube. On Twitter/X, I was wondering what was the community's favorite altcoins to look at. FET was one, Render was another one, Solana, EGLD, and I wanted to give some kind of understanding as to what directional correlation is. You can see on the background here, that candlestick pattern is Bitcoin. What happens when Bitcoin goes down? It typically pulls the alts down with it. Sometimes the alts will move in a different direction, but this is a 15-minute chart. One of the things that we see really recently, we had a bit of a pullback. How did that affect Render? Well, it took it down. What about Solana? It took it down as well. What about FET? It took that down as well. But we've now seen that Bitcoin is starting to do a little bit of a wave up. What's happening with all the other alts? They're starting to come up. EGLD has been particularly strong. When you look at alts from this perspective, which is Bitcoin's dominance, not Bitcoin dominance, but Bitcoin's apostrophe S dominance, you can see exactly what traders see. Traders need to be in and out of the market really quickly. They're not like investors. To understand where Bitcoin is going, we need the world's most powerful smart money buy and sell level detection system, which is formed through Level 1 and Level 2 standard certification. How do we look at that particular indicator? Well, we just pop it on. Let's have a look. Putting on the indicator gives us literally X-ray vision into the market. I'll just pop some levels on here so it's easier for you to see. What did we see with price? Price came down and couldn't get through this 57,909 structural resistance level. It came down to structural support at 57,419. This is actually a 15-minute chart, but it goes to show you how granular you can get. We forced our way through this 57,909, but were rejected by that 58,297. We saw a little bit of weakness, but are hovering around this 57,909 level. When it comes to structural support and structural resistance, which is what level 1 and level 2 standard certification is all about, if it is going above, it's seeking to get to the next structural level above that, which in this case is 58,297. If it goes below, it's seeking to go to the 57,419 level. So keep that in mind, and let's look back at Bitcoin's dominance. We can see now, as Bitcoin is seeking to come up, what happened to the alts. Well, NOT is going for it at the moment, so SUI is detecting some weakness in Bitcoin's gravitational alignment. It's struggling with overhead resistance. And we're getting some of the alts showing a little bit of weakness and some overextensions. Don't forget, this is the top 60 cryptos. But one thing is absolutely for sure, if Bitcoin starts to rally, we know that the alts are going to start to rally. If they start to weaken, it's giving us a bit of forward indication that Bitcoin could also be weakening. And it's all around Bitcoin structural levels. This is wildly important to understand. It doesn't matter what crypto project you're investing in. Here are the top 60. You could just extend it and extend it and extend it. And don't forget, this is a 1 second chart. You can literally see it second by second by second. Bitcoin's gravitational pull is absolute. It is Bitcoin's dominance, not Bitcoin dominance. But if you like Bitcoin dominance, hey, why not? Just like it. But personally, as a trader, I find no use whatsoever in Bitcoin's dominance. Why is that, Ken? Everybody talks about it. And people with really good reputations inside the crypto market talk about it a lot. Well, as a trader, I'm looking for instant signal. I just can't wait around all the time for something that plays or doesn't play out. Don't forget, Bitcoin's dominance can do all sorts of things under the same market conditions. So what I need is a statistically reliable signal. I need to know if Bitcoin is coming up, I can look at the alts because the alts are going to be reflecting that. Some of course, move in an inverse direction. But one thing moving in an inverse direction doesn't invalidate things. What we saw with SEI was just simply overextending. Now it's retracing. Don't forget, this is on a 1 second basis. You've got to look more into the river and less towards the banks when it comes to this kind of analysis. But if we see things start to take off, we know Bitcoin is starting to gather strength. And of course, that's exactly what we're seeing at the current time. Bitcoin is gathering strength and the alts are reflecting it even down to the 1 second basis. Bitcoin right now has found a level of support at 57,909. It's heading up to the 58,297 mark. When you understand crypto like this, especially when you can draw the real and true support and resistance lines through level 1 and level 2 standard certification, and that's a skill that you learn once and apply for a lifetime, everything changes inside the crypto market. You must look at Bitcoin first. If you're looking anywhere else first, for example, if you were just looking at your particular project and just saying, oh, I don't care about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is, just so boring. It's so old. It's not what I want. Well, you can see that you're making a huge mistake. You must look at Bitcoin first because this is going to tell you what all the alts are doing. And we can see that even on that 1 second basis, as Bitcoin is coming up, it's pushed the middle of the river up. Don't forget, the banks are the banks on either side. Well, they're just there. And we know that Bitcoin is coming into structural overhead resistance because we've got our X-ray vision. What did it do? It started to retrace from that. You can see how important and how vital it is to know your structural levels. If you don't, you're going to burn your cash unequivocally. And you can see here, this is just an example, an illustration. When Bitcoin comes down, what is it doing to the river? It's all of these alts are going with it, and the banks are going with it as well. If this doesn't prove to you that Bitcoin's gravitational pull is absolutely important to understand, nothing ever will. Remember, we just saw price try to get to this 58,297 mark, and it was rejected because the sellers are up there. The CTKS method, learned through level 1 and level 2 standard certification, is the world's most powerful smart money buy and sell level detection system. What did this level mean, 58,297? You've seen it play out in real time. This is called a leading or forward indicator of price because we already know where price will interact and what it will do. If it gets over, it will seek to go to the next one above. If it falls under, it will seek to go to the one below. And if it comes up to the one above it, there are sellers there. That's what resistance actually means. And remember what it did on the 1 second chart. It just crushed the performance. Over the last 3 videos, I've sought to share my trades inside what I use inside the service, because all of these indicators, which there are 32 of them going across 32 different charts, these structural levels are absolutely spectacular, and I would never trade anything without looking at structure first. You can see just how important it is. What a lot of people would say, oh, we've made it across here. We're going to the moon. Not so fast. We're going to the upper structural level, and we know exactly where it is. A good way to think about it is like this. Bitcoin came into structural resistance here. It's been retracing ever since. The flow of the main river is here. The banks are outside of it. But the flow of the main river is where you need to keep your attention. I've gone down to a 1 second chart to show you exactly why these levels are so incredibly powerful. They work on everything. I'd just like to thank you for being here. I'm grateful and appreciative that we can share this time together. Inside the masterclass, I share many rules. I believe Rule 45 is one of the most important rules that you can ever learn. No altcoin can escape Bitcoin's gravity. I hopefully proved it in real time on the 1 second chart for you. A lot of people will say, but Ken, I don't trade anything on 1 second. That's not the point. The point is that Bitcoin's gravitational pull impacts all the alts down to the per second basis. There's a little bit of more complexity inside it. Here, we've been looking at Bitcoin structural levels. Bitcoin structural levels are very important, but if you were trading on Doge or ADA or Solana or whatever you were trading on, you also need to look at the structural levels of that specific chart, because they matter. If Solana had a lot of overhead structural resistance in its chart and Bitcoin was going up, Solana's price appreciation would be compressed in relativity to, say, ADA. If ADA had no structural resistance above it, it would move much more quickly than Solana. And that's exactly why you see different alts putting in different percentage gains and different percentage losses. Also, it's very important to understand that all the Tier 1 charts and especially the Tier 2 charts will feed back into Bitcoin's gravitational direction and momentum. And I just recently released an end of month projection on all of these prices inside the service. So you've got 32 different charts with their projections for the upside and to the downside. If you're inside the service, please make sure that you watch that particular video. It's a doozy, and it takes the cheat sheet to a whole new level. One thing to bear in mind, risk always comes from not knowing what you're doing. Just zooming out a little bit, Bitcoin came into its structural resistance, just wavered around and has been coming down. And look at all the alts. You saw the alts doing really well as Bitcoin was coming up. Now you can see the alts are absolutely impacted by Bitcoin's dominance. When you want to see Bitcoin's dominance, just tune into the channel because we talk about it all the time. We don't talk about Bitcoin dominance. But we talk about Bitcoin's apostrophe S dominance, and that is realistically the one you want to look at. I use it in all my trades. I make sure that I know where everything is going at all times. And if you look over the past couple of days of trades, you'll see tens of thousands of US dollars were made in a market that was really quite red. Trading is a very skillful business, and when you understand the underpinning rules of the market that you're in, you can be more of a financial and emotional blessing to yourself and those you love. Hey Ken, why an emotional blessing? Well, it's very fearful to be a trader and an investor, and when you get it all down pat, you become emotionally resilient. We also know exactly where price is going. If we get above, we're going to the next one. But if we come back to a structural level, we would seek to retest and try to go again. If it fails underneath, cuts under like this, it's going to 57,419. And the alts will bleed if that occurs. You must know where Bitcoin is going if you're in the crypto market. And to not know is not bliss. Ignorance is not bliss. It's unmitigated loss. And here you're seeing in real time just how powerful these structural levels are. We knew exactly what was happening as we were getting over 57,909. We were heading towards the 58,297 mark. As we came down, we know that structure exists at this 57,909 level. It's currently interacting with that structure. If we manage to do a retest, we're heading back up to 58,297. But if we lose this and do an underside retest, we're heading to 57,419. Always have your three-dimensional thinking about you at all times. Your ultimate certainty is simply to know what these structural levels are inside the charts that you're using and putting money into. Of course, make sure that you're looking at Bitcoin first and foremost before you look at your beloved alts. Hopefully, you'll come to see why Bitcoin's dominance absolutely matters. If you don't know and understand Bitcoin's dominance, not Bitcoin dominance, but big apostrophe S dominance, you're in a lot of trouble because you will simply think that every single crypto project is a law unto its own. It is not. Everything moves with Bitcoin, and that may come as a real shock to a lot of people, but it's just the way of the crypto market. If you know this, you can use it to your advantage. One thing I see all the time, I see posts on social media like, who the heck is selling their Bitcoin? Well, who the heck is selling their Bitcoin really comes down to interactions between structural levels. Here we're looking at a 1 second chart. We knew that Bitcoin came up into structural resistance. It couldn't hold there, it's coming down. Hopefully it will find a level of structural support. But if it doesn't do that, it's going down. But if it does do that, it's coming back to retest that structural level. It is that simple. That's all there is to it. It's not about Mt. Gox or Germany or anything, or about new ETFs in Australia. What you need to look at is simply the structure inside Bitcoin first and foremost, and then look at the structure inside the alts that you're trading. All the top alts are covered inside the service. That is the top alts. And if an alt isn't covered or a stock isn't covered, you can just mark it up with level 1 and level 2 standard certification. Price is always moving in an up and down kind of way. Many people think that it just moves from A to B. It doesn't. It's going like this all the time, and it can go like this and back. And a lot of people say, oh, I'm certain as to where price is going. The only certainty is not found in panic and blame. The certainty is found in the stacking of probability, the application of rules, the learning that you do, and the patience that you apply. Price is just moving between structural levels in a curvilinear manner, which means it's not a straight line. It's always going up and down and curving as it does so. And inside the crypto market, it's all exponential price action. The only certainty you absolutely require is the certainty of stacking probabilities and knowing your structural levels, and also how to get away from the lose money rule zones, which is all about emotions taking over. Panic is an emotion and blame is just the same emotion flipped on its head. But neither of these emotions are going to save you. Only knowledge will save you. By learning, we can get out of zone 1 and zone 2 into zone 3. But it's through emotional mastery that you actually keep your money. We've seen over a period of 113 days, Bitcoin has come down 27.43%. During that time, there were capabilities to trade in and out of the market if you knew how to trade. But if you only knew how to invest, you've just lost, in all probability, a lot more than 27.43% because there's a gearing factor between Bitcoin and the alts. For example, if Bitcoin comes down 1%, the alts are likely to come down 3%. Sometimes they'll come down 5%. That can also move in the opposite direction. If Bitcoin comes up 1%, the alts come up 3 or 5 or even 10%. The entire crypto market depends on what Bitcoin is doing, and knowing your structural levels is not optional if you want to survive in the crypto market. It's absolutely compulsory. There were so many awesome comments in yesterday's video. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone. And today our secret word is knowledge. Bitcoin structural levels absolutely dominate the crypto industry, but Bitcoin is just buffeted around by the Tier 1 charts and also cross-confirmed inside the Tier 2 charts. Having a holistic understanding of how markets move together is really important, but just when you're starting, make sure that you know your structural levels on at least Bitcoin if you're in the crypto market and whatever else you're investing in. You can then layer your information, but Bitcoin structural levels first, and whatever say you were investing in Solana next. This is just the starting point if you want to be consistently profitable. And you can pick up all the structural indicators for these Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 charts from CTKSMethod.org. Have a great day or night ahead, my friends, and Kate and I look forward to catching up with you again in the next video. Bye for now.